Hello, welcome to the I'm a PDC, Now What webinar. My name is Emily Britt and I will be your technical producer and moderator this evening. This webinar will be presented by Leslie Lage and Meredith Perlman. Before we start the presentation, let's take a moment to ensure that everyone is ready and familiar with the webinar control panel. On the right side of your screen, you will see the attendee control panel, and on the left is the webinar viewer window. This viewer window displays the presenter's screen throughout the webinar. The control panel can be minimized or expanded by clicking on the horizontal double arrow button in the upper left corner. It's usually orange. Minimizing the panel allows a better view of the presentation. Take a moment to practice. There are a few features of the control panel that the attendees should know. First, be familiar with the Raise Your Hand button. This button is located along the left side of the control panel. It allows you to virtually raise your hand if you have a question or if you want to respond to a question being asked by the presenter. Click this button to raise your hand now. Great. Clicking this button again will lower your hand. Another important feature of the control panel is the questions pane. To submit a question, type it into the question box. These may be questions related to the presentation or technical questions related to the GoToWebinar system. You may also be asked by the presenter to type your ideas or responses here as a part of an exercise during the webinar. Please send us a quick note now in your questions pane telling us which province you live in. All right, we've got some people from Pi Province, 2 people from Pi Province, 2 from Alpha Province. All right, looks great. Thanks, everybody. Questions may be submitted at any time. These will be monitored and we will try to respond quickly if we see something that shouldn't wait until the Q&A period, such as making a clarification. Be sure to stay attentive and interact as much as possible during this webinar. The quality of your experience depends on your attention and participation. Try to avoid distractions of responding to email, checking Facebook, instant messaging, or working on other tasks at your computer. If you need to step away for a moment, do not close the GoToWebinar window, as you will be required to log in again if you wish to rejoin the session. If you experience problems with the audio, one possible solution is to use the conference call number and listen to the presentation using your phone. Click the Use Telephone option in the audio pane of your control panel to view the conference call number. The webinar is being recorded and an online archive will be available to view on the CAPA website in approximately 2 weeks. Are there any questions? All right. I would now like to hand the virtual microphone to Meredith and Leslie.
Welcome, ladies. First, Leslie and I want to say congratulations on being elected to the position of Province Director of Chapters. We want to welcome you on this leadership journey to the fraternity's Associate Council. You are among a select group of women, so you should be proud. It's one of the most rewarding volunteer jobs in CAPA. On this journey, you will help motivate and guide chapters, advisors, and house boards to a better understanding of the fraternity at large through communication, education, and chapter visits. Just like traveling to a new destination, you may feel a little anxious about your new position, and we understand that, and it may also seem a little overwhelming. Perhaps you're concerned that you don't know everything that's involved in being a PDC, or that you don't know what's expected of you. No worries. Through our webinars and through our time together at Associate Council Seminar, or ACS, we'll make sure that you have all the tools to help you be successful in your new role. Some information will be helpful prior to ACS, so we've designed this pre-training so you're familiar with the forms, terms, and activities that we'll go over in detail when you join us in Columbus. This course will cover the fraternity structure, the duties of a PDC, relationship building, the CAPA cloud, and we'll also give you a sneak peek into ACS and have a little time for some questions and answers. Many of you may already have some varying degree of familiarity with our structure as it stands today. In a later webinar, you'll hear about the proposed changes to the organization's structure and how all of our roles will change at the 2016 convention. As we stand today, it's important to understand the layout, where your role falls, and the structure of where the partnerships and resources are that you'll need in your role. In addition to the fraternity council members, there's a regional council, associate council, standing committees, special committees, assistants to fraternity council, and chapter assistants. Besides our dedicated volunteers, Kappa also includes our headquarters staff. Staff members are based out of our headquarters office, which is located in Columbus, Ohio. You'll have the opportunity to meet members of the above councils, committees, and staff at ACS. For a complete listing, you can refer to the Kappa Yellow pages, which can be found on the Kappa website. As PDCs, you will see that you report directly to the RDC, who reports up through the Director of Chapters to the Fraternity Council. Our current Fraternity Council is comprised of many volunteers who are located throughout the U.S. and Canada. Fraternity Council pictures here are comprised of Beth Black, our Fraternity President, Elizabeth Bailey, our Fraternity Vice President, Suzanne Dalton, our Director of Chapters, Kimberly Connell, our Director of Alumni, Colette Rangich, our Director of Standards, Susan Pyle, our Director of Membership, Patty Gazelle, our NPC Delegate, Gail Owens, our Director of Education, Nancy Folan, our Treasurer, and Carrie Cottrell, our Executive Director.
In addition to Fraternity Council, which Meredith just introduced you to, you may be familiar with some of these faces. This is your regional team. And just want to introduce, as you may not be familiar with everybody, so Region 1 is Alicia Soto. She lives in New Jersey and is a second-term RDC. Myself, Leslie Lage, I live in Region 2, and I live in Maryland, and I'm a second-term RDC. Meredith, whose voice you're also hearing, is in Region 3, lives in Georgia, and is a first-term RDC. Katie, in Region 4, lives in Iowa, and is a first-term RDC. Missy, in Region 5, lives in Indiana, and is a first-term RDC. Brittany represents Region 6, lives in Washington, and is a first-term RDC, and Angela in Region 7 lives in California and is a second-term RDC. You should be familiar with the chapters and know which alumni associations are located within your province, as well as know which region your province is a part of. You'll have the opportunity to meet and interact with your PDA partners at ACS, as well as these women, also your CCS teams. These women all can be very helpful in finding and recruiting advisory board and house board members for your groups. So it's really important to make those personal connections while you're there and begin establishing those relationships. In terms of, sorry, we've lost our map there. I'm not sure what happened. But just kind of a breakdown of Region 1. Not that you need a geography lesson tonight, especially without our little maps present, which I apologize, I'm not sure what happened there. But just to familiarize you with, like, really what is Region 1, what is Region 2, and so forth. So essentially Region 1 encompasses parts of Canada and basically the Northeast. Region 2, pretty much the Mid-Atlantic states, including West Virginia and Ohio. And Region 2 and Region 1 also split Pennsylvania. Region 3 encompasses mostly the southern states, Kentucky to Florida, and then west to Mississippi. Oh, fancy. And then we've got Region 4, essentially Texas, Oklahoma, part of Kansas, Missouri, Arkansas, and Louisiana. Region 5 encompasses the Midwestern states, including Minnesota and Michigan. Region 6, we've got essentially the Northwest to Canada, Washington, Colorado, Nebraska, and kind of everywhere in between. And Region 7, we've got California, Arizona, and Oregon. So to cover, essentially, now that you kind of know the geography of kind of where everybody falls and lands, in terms of really kind of getting down to the nitty-gritty of what it is that we're really going to be doing as PDCs and where to begin. So want to call out for you guys to really start. We've got several different types of volunteers stepping into these roles. And so we really want to make sure that you guys work on transitioning out of your current CAPA role. So we are ready to roll as we head into ACS. So your PDC term officially begins on July 1st, following ACS. We ask that you transition out of your current role in June, if you haven't done so already, so that your new position as PDC will have your full attention starting July 1. Each region will handle the transition slightly different, but you will have a transition call with the outgoing PDC and or your RDC to connect both personally, but also to get you familiarized with your new groups that you'll be working with. So this may happen, again, it's going to vary region to region, but this may happen either before ACS or just following. Council will also assign provinces. So I'm sure you all are dying to know where you've been assigned. So Fraternity Council will assign those provinces, and you will be notified by your RDC the week prior to arriving at ACS. So I would expect an email, phone call, probably that weekend prior, before June 20th, somewhere right around there. In terms of communication, so I think that's probably one of the most important aspects of really this role as a PDC. You know, obviously you communicate with multiple groups, and whether this is via phone or email, keeping the lines of communication is a must. This is to ensure that you're aware of what's happening in your chapters at all times. So I think the key thing here is to remember that you're the link from the chapters to your regional director of chapters. So communication with her is also equally important. There's a monthly newsletter that will be prepared and shared with you all from the RDCs in terms of important and pertinent information coming through. And this will be kind of that gateway for you to kind of keep things top of mind, to know those kind of global messages that you need to be communicating with your chapters and your boards. I think the other thing too I wanted to highlight here is really establishing, once you find out who you'll be working with, really establishing the best method of communication with those you'll be working with, whether that's your RDC, your chapter women, or your boards, right? So figuring out really who communicates best via email, text, phone, you know, face-to-face when you can, that sort of thing. The other piece is who you're going to be talking to and when you're going to be talking to them. So basically who your audiences will be, primarily will be your RDC, fraternity council, parents, advisors, house board members, your regional risk management specialist, your coordinator of chapter support, and your Panhellenic delegate. So there'll be much more detail about this at ACS. However, you're kind of the keeper, if you will, of your province from the chapter perspective. So anything to do with the chapters and decision making should go through you, and you should be a partner too. And I think that's really a key piece and kind of something that will be different from maybe a previous role that you've held. So I think that's really important to highlight. You will utilize the MPC delegate for all campus Panhellenic changes and votes. The CCS should be partnering with you prior to recruiting and placing anyone on the boards of the chapters that you're working with. And you need to communicate what your needs are to her. So again, this will be a lot more that we'll go into at ACS. But you'll also be in touch with the regional risk management specialist on a regular basis. As her role, she approves pretty much the contracts and ensures that we are legally covered for events when it comes to chapters holding their social events. But you will be the partner making the call to either cancel an event when that comes up or to continue it with the planning. When a university calls or parents call, this sometimes can be a little bit of a sticky situation. They don't normally call us to say, hey, you know, we just love your chapter so much, although that does happen often, you know, sometimes as well, but not as often as we would like. But when those calls come in, you will always have, and we'd ask that you take your RDC as a partner, and you'll have that support there.
So as Leslie mentioned, as a PDC, you're an important connection between the chapters and the fraternity, and especially your regional director of chapters. And so you need to be in regular contact with your regional director of chapters about what's happening with the chapters in your province. Twice a year, you are going to be asked to submit and summarize what's happening in your province via reports, which are due in November and April. And this information is used in conjunction with the LC reports and input from the Director of Chapters, Director of Standards, and Director of Membership for chapter evaluation reports, which will then provide feedback to the chapter presidents and establish working goals. It sounds complicated, but it works in reality. But this helps them establish goals for the upcoming year or semester, and we're going to have more information about that at ACS and a post-ACS webinar. The bottom line is your input is critical and crucial, and so we need you to be providing the most accurate information you can.
Hey, Meredith, we've had a request that you speak up a little bit louder.
Sure. Okay, so with the CAPA resources, so everything is on kappa.org, if you haven't noticed. When you sign in, there's going to be information located under My Resources, organized by the fraternity position and your member status. And your link is going to be under Official Family. You're going to be able to have access to your PDC manual. It's currently being revised. There is one posted, but we're revising it currently. And so as soon as we have it up and running for the new one, we'll let you know that also. All reports from your visits, which are LC reports, your visits, the Kappa trainer visits, etc., are also available through kappa.org. They're on the cloud, but you can access the cloud through kappa.org. All fraternity documents, which are the fraternity bylaws, standing rules, and policies, which are going to become basically your guide for everything, are on kappa.org. And the key reports and Bill Highway, you can link through kappa.org to all of these resources. Key reports allows you to see each of your chapters and what their officers are, whether they've submitted information, whether they've submitted forms. And Bill Highway also lets you look at their finances. All of our financial information is done through Bill Highway. So an easy access to your resources, you can create a bookmark. To do that, you're going to click on the bottom beside the link and complete the name and click OK. So when you sign in, your bookmarks are going to appear under top topics. So it's going to say top topics for Official Family. Usually it's key reports, the yellow pages, and the foundation yellow pages, and then your bookmarks. So here we've said good bookmarks to have are the fraternity bylaws, fraternity standing rules, and the fraternity policies.
Okay, so Meredith previously mentioned the cloud. So the Kappa cloud is essentially the Google Drive of Kappa. That's the easiest way to kind of put some sense around it. All leadership consultants, Kappa trainer, visit reports from your visits, or other visitors to your chapter, your mid-year and year-end evaluations that Meredith highlighted, leadership consultant schedules, anything that you need to find or really know as a PDC is housed here. So this is a great go-to prior to reaching out and saying, you know, hey, I'm not sure, where can I find this? It's likely here. You can set up notifications in the system so that when anyone posts something to a specific folder, you receive an email to be alerted that there's new information to be reviewed. So this is huge, you know, in terms of like, so what, for an example, the leadership consultant arrives at your chapter, she posts the report within a week of leaving, it automatically alerts you so that you don't have to be constantly checking. So it's a great tool, and I know that we've talked about actually, you know, setting up some breakout time at ACS to go through with our PDCs and ensure that everyone has notifications set up. But this gives you a snapshot of really what the Kappa Cloud would look like as you log in. So you'll see over there where, you know, the breakout on the left-hand side shows the different types of folders. And then specifically, if you would click on the folder that said Chapter Reports 1415, to the right are all the different types, and this is just a quick snapshot. There's other reporting in here that would tell you what you can find in there. So it's a great resource. So leadership consultant visits. So we kind of mentioned this quite a few times. And the reason being is that you guys are integral into prepping and kind of the post work that goes into these leadership consultant visits. In terms of, you know, what has to happen, we're going to have a further kind of breakout at ACS, a little more in detail, but high level. Really, you guys are responsible for working directly with those consultants who visit your chapters. So you know the chapters best, or you will learn them, don't worry, and will be that expert for the leadership consultant. And so you'll receive a schedule for the consultant visits each semester, and you're responsible for providing her a chapter preview prior to the visits. So you see it'll highlight there that 1 to 2 weeks out. So there's an actual kind of guided form that you would provide to her in addition to picking up the phone, checking in, and prepping her for that visit, or at least that phone call once she's there, kind of boots on the ground. Prior to the LC visiting your chapter, you would give her a preview, I mentioned, right? So what that encompasses are really like focus areas, areas that we've identified together, meaning PDC and RDC, of follow-up, maybe from a prior visit, or something that may have just occurred weeks before or days before her arriving, that sort of thing. We'll go through the reports themselves at ACS and give you suggestions for compiling the information to make it as easy as possible. The other thing is kind of post-visit, right? So there's a lot kind of like loading into the visit, but then following the visit, it's really critical that once those reports are posted, you get the notification of the cloud, that in a timely manner, the PDC is reviewing the report and then following up with the chapter and suggestions so that, you know, her work kind of doesn't go off into kind of black space, right, or kind of into no man's land. And then partner, of course, with your RDC on any glaring issues or anything that we need like immediate follow-up to. So as I shared, there will be a specific kind of breakout specific for these visits at ACS in a little more detail.
So at the beginning, we mentioned that you get to travel a little bit as a PDC. Chapter visits are an important part and aspect of being a PDC. You're going to get to know your chapters by visiting them, and it creates a real connection. So as a PDC, you need to visit each chapter once during your term, so once during your 2-year term. You may also be asked to visit chapters for special occasions, whether it be recruitment, initiation, to assist with council action visits, or anything else. And you'll be asked to provide a report following the visit to recap your time, any takeaways you have, and any follow-up that needs to happen. In addition to the visits to the chapters in your province, you're also going to be required to attend conventions, the Regional Leadership Conference, and possibly other relevant meetings in our seminars. And please note that you do have a budget for this, so don't worry about that. But all flights that you're going to take must be booked by our CAPA travel agent, Century Travel, which hopefully you've already worked with for ACS. So, relationship building. It's an important part of your job. First and foremost, you want to develop a rapport with your chapters. You're their resource, their go-to girl, and their biggest cheerleader and advocate. You're also going to be working with the advisors and the house board. So it's important that you develop a positive rapport with them as well. So you need to practice respect for one another. Respect in a relationship is fundamental for allowing both partners to feel valued and appreciated. But respect shouldn't just be demonstrated on occasional events. Instead, you should be routinely implementing that throughout the relationship. Communicate openly. There are going to be times when you and your counterpart might disagree, but that's natural. The important thing is how you respond to these problems and how you acknowledge one another's feelings. Often the best way to do this is to talk directly about what you feel and what you want, and what you feel is wrong. Avoid hinting, because a lot of times this sends mixed messages and causes more problems than it solves. Also, don't be afraid to pick up the phone. A lot of times we communicate through emails because it's easiest, but a lot of times emails can be misinterpreted. So don't be afraid to pick up that phone, communicate openly with whoever you need to, and make sure we're building those relationships. Finally, we need to practice compromise. Allow yourself to accept that your views won't always be in alignment with everything. And even try to enjoy that you often have different opinions. Compromise is what makes our chapters great, what makes these relationships great.
Okay, so now getting a little preview of ACS. So what's to come for us in a couple of weeks when we meet up together. So you are going to get a full agenda upon arrival in Columbus, but we wanted to give you some highlights because we know you're dying to know really what the weekend entails. So we wanted to highlight a couple of the focuses, and so the day in and day out responsibilities and a day in the life are all about getting organized, getting yourself organized, getting yourself organized within the chapters, within how this is going to work within your real life, outside of Kappa, all of those important things. The other areas, so chapter finance, risk management, standards, Panhellenic, membership, and even a little bit about the philanthropy and Kappa Foundation, are really for alignment. Because a lot of you may have been involved previously in advising one of these areas or helping in some other fashion through the fraternity, so you have exposure. But the focus is now about from the perspective of the PDC role. So we ask that you stay open to different perspectives and kind of come into it and really approach this with a higher level of thinking about how your role will now impact these different areas of the fraternity and how you will interact with your chapters and boards as such. So in terms of what to bring with you, that's always important, right? We always need to know that. So of course your badge. Dress is business casual or key attire for all workshops. We will have a Saturday night banquet type of thing for those of you who have attended maybe a convention, a regional leadership consultant, formerly a province meeting. So I wouldn't call it as fancy as a candlelight banquet, but still you could definitely wear whatever you chose to wear during the day, or if you wanted to change and wear something different, also feel free. As long as you're in badge attire, you're good to go. If you're able to participate and bring a laptop or iPad, it will really help through a lot of the educational sessions because we're going to have internet in the meeting rooms, and so it'll allow you, when we're going through the cloud or Bill Highway, to be able to log on. And then so once we assign you to specific provinces, you will have access to those chapters. So it will be really great if you have the ability to bring your resources to do so and be a lot more hands-on. And then finally, talking about from a standpoint of also the last most favorite everyone looks forward to is our sisterhood event on Friday night. So asking that you bring your favorite L's, keys, and fleur-de-lis to our sisterhood, which will be with all of our partners there, our alum partners, our PDAs, our CCSs, fraternity council members, and it's going to be like a sisterhood. We're going to have a photo booth, and just asking that you bring your bling, so to speak, and kind of have a little fun. It's a casual event. We're going to have a photo booth. It'll be lots of fun. So kind of bring your fun spirit there.
A couple other notes on ACS. There's going to be opportunities for conversation time with your RDC and your regional team. We think it's important that you build that relationship with your RDC and the other PDCs within your region. Not even just the PDCs, the PDAs and the CCS within your region is going to be important. Those are going to be the people that you rely on, you share ideas with, and that conversation building at ACS is going to be important. Friday lunch is going to be outside the hotel in the Easton Town Center with your regional team. That's going to be paid for, of course, by ACS and fraternity. Roommates are assigned by the director of chapters, so don't worry about that. You'll find out your roommate just like at convention when you check in and go up to your hotel room. It's always fun to find out who you get to room with. Get to know as many people as possible while you're there. As I said earlier, these are going to be the people that you rely on. These are going to be the people that you share ideas with. We try to have open communication between all of our PDCs, especially within our region, but we do have the PDC Facebook group. Hopefully all of you have been added to that by now. If not, then contact an RDC and we can get you added. But get to know as many people as possible. Get to know the RDCs, get to know the PDCs, get to know the headquarters staff, because you're going to be emailing them with questions all the time too. And then have fun. Learn and enjoy the time we get to spend together. Leslie and I are looking forward to meeting all of you and seeing all of you while at ACS. Finally, I think we just wanted to see if anyone had any questions. You know the resources now. We've been able to review them, and you're going to be able to review the website before you arrive at ACS. And at this time, we want to see if anyone has any questions that we can help answer before ACS.
One question that got submitted a while ago was about bookmarks and if there's a maximum number of bookmarks that you can create.
I'm actually not sure if there's a maximum number, but that's something we can figure out.
Okay.
Yeah, I haven't heard of any restrictions either, but we'll definitely look into that.
And the person who submitted it actually figured it out, and she says that you can only show 3 on the home screen.
Okay.
Yeah, I think to that point, it only shows 3, but you can actually bookmark, I think, additional. I think if you go into a different screen, you can bookmark, because I believe I have more than 3 bookmarked.
I think at the bottom of it, there's like a show more bookmarks or something. If you click, it'll probably list all of them.
Awesome. Any other questions? Okay, none are rolling in, but we still have a few minutes in case you're typing to get them submitted. Oh. And we had somebody say that they thought this has been one of the most helpful webinars so far, so they really appreciate your time, which is great. Okay, so let's thank our presenters, Meredith and Leslie, for leading the session, and to thank all of you for participating in the webinar today. If you have any questions or comments about today's topic, you can email the presenters directly. If you would like to be more involved in CAPA's virtual training and webinar programs, we'd love to have you on the producer team. Please contact Karen Holmes at CAPA headquarters for details. I have to say, it's really cool to do this as a webinar producer. You get to learn a lot more about CAPA and connect with people that you wouldn't necessarily meet. So it's a great way to be involved and support the fraternity, though all of you are doing great work and about to be doing that in a more significant way as well. As we close the webinar, a survey will open on your screen. You'll be prompted to respond to a few evaluation questions. Please take a moment to share your thoughts on today's webinar. Your feedback will help us shape future webinar training events. If you have any additional comments or questions whatsoever, please send an email to Karen Holmes, which is kholmes@kkg.org. Thanks so much for joining us this evening.